This episode of GuildCast is brought to you by Netflix. For a free 30-day trial, head on over to netflix.com/Gamebreaker TV.
Gamebreaker TV.
Bing bong! What's up, everybody? It's 6:15 on Wednesday. Why am I time stamping it? I have no freaking idea, but it's 6:15. That's what you do when you do the bing bong. It's like, bing bong, top of the hour. We've got GuildCast coming up for you next with the one, the only Richie Procopio.
Are we going to get the weather report next?
I could do that. I'm building a green screen over there. I could do weather reporting, kind of like clicking.
That's
place.
awesome.
I should do that.
You should. You should do MMO weather reporting.
MMO weather reporting.
We could do like the rifts, right? We've got a lightning rift over here.
Yeah, joining us, of course, is the one and only from Massively.com. It's Elizabeth Claire.
Hello.
How long does it take before this gets completely annoying? It's gone over already.
No time at all, yeah.
No time at all. All right, let's get to it. It's episode number 62 for February 20th, 2013. Today we're going to talk about the guild mission system. It's been unveiled. There's been some improvements to the trading post that's coming. Changes to loot drops are in the works. And of course, we got your viewer questions, including video viewer questions this week. Finally, we got
shiny.
some. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So let's kick it off. You know, I'm starting to question if Colin Johansson actually works on the game these days. I'm wondering if he like works on, I don't know if he works on it or he just like likes to talk to people about.
He's actually transferred over to the PR department.
That's
He's talking a lot.
Yeah, yeah. So he gave an interview to MMORPG.com this week. Definitely worth checking it out over at the MMORPG. We pulled out some highlights from the interview, like we do. First up, he said, world narrative-wise, February continues to build the fundamentals of the story to provide more hints and growth to this storyline as it builds into the core components and takes off in, get that, March and April. Did we know that? That's like, I mean, the story has enough depth to last all and continue to April. Did we know that before this? I don't remember hearing that.
I don't know that they said April specifically, but they've talked about like big multi-month story arcs, so I'm not surprised that it's more than like a 2 or 3 month thing. So yeah, so we knew that it was big, but now we're kind of getting a feel for exactly how big the story will be.
Yeah, that's the
cool.
first mention of April, right? We've been hearing about January and February so much. We even got a little bit of March, and now it's April.
April.
Wow.
Do you think that they,
May.
kind of extending that out a bit and thinking about now we're getting into April. I mean, the way they're building out how much of this is like a major storyline in the first half of the year, do you think that there's a possibility that they could actually use this storyline to almost set up the next expansion? Or the first expansion, I should say, not the next.
I mean, I kind of think that we're gonna see a very different story coming out of this arc than we are from the expansion, because I think they've really delineated. They said right away there's gonna be nothing to do with the Elder Dragons in this story arc, and we're pretty much guessing that the Elder Dragons saga is going to continue in an expansion content thing. So I think it's going to be a lot of the content we're going to see leading up to the expansion. Whether or not it directly ties in, that's still a question mark in my mind.
What do you think? Yeah, do you think there's a possibility?
It might change the setting of the world. So right now we're dealing a lot with the Char and the Norn. Maybe, you know, over time we start to deal a lot with Codan, and maybe over time, you know, that turns into Codan as a playable race when Jormag is the guy that we're focusing on. So there are a lot of options as far as like changing the world, or like some other big thing happens at the end of the story and it kind of sets the stage for later events. But I don't know that it's going to tie directly into whatever the expansion looks like whenever it comes out.
All right. Colin continued by saying, he said, this concept of a living narrative, a truly unique storyline that drives the story of Guild Wars 2 and helps change the world on a week-by-week basis while introducing new content, is a big part of where GW2 is going in 2013. This concept and the evolution of the potential of the living world is something we'll be building on much more as the year goes on. Have you guys noticed any changes to the living story since we last spoke about? Nothing major, right?
I don't think so.
Not
No.
since last week, no.
Yeah.
What do you think? Do you take that quote to mean that's like, I don't know, as time goes on, we're going to be seeing more rapidly moving sort of living story content throughout 2013?
He mentions weekly, right?
Yeah, he says week by week.
Yeah, I mean, right now we're not getting anything week by week as far as I'm concerned. It's going a little slow. Like the beginning was really cool. They tied that achievement that you could get, but it's really been hard to kind of get reinvested in that since nothing really has been taking off. I mean, they've added a few tiny little tidbits here and there. But if they really kind of advance this story with the February game update and beyond, where we're actually seeing things in game like week to week, we don't have to wait for patches. All of a sudden things get kind of phased in and you're kind of exploring the world and people are checking forums and Reddit and different things like, oh, did you find anything new? I think that could get really, really exciting. We're just not quite at that point yet.
I definitely agree. I feel like the prelude was kind of deliberately slow, but I really hope that as we get more and more into the story, they're not going to make us wait like 3 weeks for the next bit of content. So it seems like something that they can build up to gradually and then have a period of kind of intense activity as far as the personal story or the living story is concerned, and then kind of taper off until the next one flows in.
If they really do good into like weekly stuff, I mean, is this just absolutely crazy talk? I mean, it'd be kind of cool. Like, would you guys like to see maybe little tidbits of things happen almost daily, and then sort of like these weekly things kind of hit on like a Friday night or for like a weekend event kind of thing?
Yeah, I think that'd be amazing. I mean, we saw what they can do during the beta weekends with those kind of like finale events, right? We haven't seen anything like that really since launch. I mean, they've done some great game updates for the holidays and different things that we've seen, but we haven't seen that kind of like, yeah, it would be really cool to like have these little hints and these little mysteries and scavenger hunt things during the week, and then all of a sudden, Friday night or Saturday night or something like that, just bam, you got this huge kind of event happen out of nowhere. The challenge was always going to be what we've said time and time again is how do you include every region, every time zone, and kind of make that something that's accessible. And if they're able to figure out a way that makes everybody happy in that, then that would be really sweet.
I think the danger to doing things that are too small from day to day is that people just wait till Thursday, log in, find it all, and then come in Friday, except for the like really hardcore people who are thinking it's cool to like go in and see if one new sign has been added or whatever. So there's a balance between like the amount of content that's going out and whether or not it's worth your while to actually go and check every day, sort of thing.
I just completely pulled like an asshat gamer question with that question, because it was like his statement of week to week, which we don't even get now, and I'm immediately going, how about day to day?
Day to day.
Day to day. Hey, you say week to week, I'll go day to day. I'll what up you. You're gonna what up me? We go wait weeks down. Can we go minute by minute? Come on, Colin.
I've been logged in an hour and it's been nothing new.
I want to see it changing as I'm just sitting there wandering through the zone. I want like bam.
Gamers, we're such jerks. It was such a, like the game releases, like where's the expansion?
Yeah.
Bored. Nothing to do with level 80. Let's go.
Yeah.
I mean, but it would be really good to see these like updated things almost on a weekly basis. I think there's probably I think it's a decent amount of people that probably went to like, a bunch of zones and kind of got the one easy achievement and never really went back. And I think it's be a way to like kind of drive people around the map and kind of get them to see a bunch of stuff that they may have kind of not really, maybe really didn't take in the world enough in certain areas.
I will say that even though there hasn't been a lot in the living story, Wayfarer Foothills and Diessa Plateau have been much more populated. Even still, like now, like you go there now, it's just much more of a presence, much more of it actually feels more like a living world, which is really cool. And I think that's key because a lot of these lower level zones, they kind of they have felt a little vapid in recent weeks and stuff like that. So if they can continue to add story bits to these different zones piece by piece, I think it will revitalize a lot of the open world, which I guess is their whole point of doing this.
Yep.
All right, so next up, Colin, he revealed some details on the upcoming guild mission system. But Scott's not here to give us his 2 cents on this.
Yeah, this is really kind of his baby.
Yeah, this is his baby. He'll be back, I think, next week. He's fine. Everything's good, but he just couldn't make the show today. So they said, Colin said the system allows people in a guild to work together to unlock guild upgrades that allow them to go on missions together. These missions can be kicked off by the specific guild that has researched that mission. But once they are activated, anyone can jump in and participate to help the guild finish the mission if they wish. So it sounds as if, I mean, this actually sounds pretty awesome. It sounds like guilds are going to have to research a specific mission to then basically unlock them, correct? And what do you assume that means by research? Is that like guild influence?
Yeah, Colin actually had a sit down with Dragon Season and a couple other people in the last couple days, and so their interview with him actually went up a couple hours ago, and he did confirm that it's influence. So some guilds, like big guilds that have just been sitting on piles and piles of influence for the last few weeks with nothing better to do with it, are going to be able to tear through that a lot more quickly than, say, maybe a smaller guild that has a much smaller supply of influence. So you'll be using influence to unlock it, and I assume it'll work a lot like the researching trees that we have now in guild upgrades, where you research guild politics level 1 and you have access to these 3 or 4 upgrades. So I assume it'll be like you research guild missions level 1 and you have access to bounties, and 2 and you have access to what they said there was like a rush run. Yeah, guild rush. So I assume it'll work something like that with trees and sort of investing scads and scads of influence.
And now to follow that up, I want to bring up the next sort of port. I mean, he also talked about how some parts of the mission can only be completed by the specific guild. So, yeah. I mean, that in conjunction with that sounds like a really good start to a system that I think that somebody like Scott was really looking for, right? Because not only does it get you, hey, there's now a lot of meaning. We don't know what these rewards will be by that specific guild, but it's like we have incentive to like build a nice, strong guild, have a really good community, start working towards our influence and actually working on that so we can unlock these things, because we can do these other events that we're going to get specific rewards and from. And I think if for anybody out there that's afraid, like there's going to be these specific things that only the large guilds can unlock, but like you said, anyone can kind of jump in and help to some extent on a bunch of it. Does this whole system sort of ease fears that a guild's one job is just going to be to basically start the event? Because that's what we kind of were wondering, I think, in episode 2 or go. Like, is it just going to be the guild starts it and then everybody just jumps in? We had concerns about that.
Yeah, I think you're right. It does. That was an important piece, right? We wanted to be able to have guilds be, necessary for something besides just like world versus world, and being able to kick off one of these, create some content in the world is certainly one way to do that. But if you just spawn the content and then anybody could join it, there's kind of it kind of leaves something to be desired. So the ability for guilds not only to research this, put it out there in the world, and then the guild itself gets the benefit from a tangible reward. So there's guild rewards, there's guild member individual rewards, and then there's rewards for people that aren't part of the guild that participate. So I think they really have, at least from their description of a high level, we don't have a lot of details at this point, they've nailed what needs to be put in place for guild missions to be successful. And
that's my next question: is what do you think that those guild specific perks or loot or whatever that's going to be, what do you think that could be? Like what? Because it can't be game breaking at all, and it can't be like something that you kind of like make a necessity. Because there's going to be a lot of guilds who probably don't grow to do this, and there's going to be the top end guilds who are going to be unlocking these things at like probably a decent clip. So what kind of things do you think that they're going to give guilds who actually do this research and unlock?
We only know of one of them, right? Didn't they announce that today? Or
yeah, it was what was it?
Lower cost for waypoints was
lower cost for waypoints. That came out a couple days ago. So you'll have other things that you can invest in, like lower cost for waypoints, other, we assume, like guild-wide buffs that will benefit the guild in that way. And then the personal ones could be interesting. It'd be really cool if you saw like tokens that could be traded in for guild-specific things. Like right now you can go out and buy a guild backpack or a guild armor piece or a guild whatever. It'd be interesting if that turned into tokens so you weren't spending cash. That's completely speculation on my part. But they have all sorts of cool things they can do to kind of reinforce the existing guild content.
Do you think that's enough? Do you think that's enough? Cheaper waypoints?
Depends. It depends, because if the content is really gripping, then maybe. If the content feels more like, all right, these are like guild dailies, then no. Then it might be fun to kind of do once or twice, and then it's like, all right, well, we did that. But if it's literally like you get to unlock this, spawning this huge like event, and these demons come out of the sky and stuff like that, it'd be really cool. But if it's really just like FedEx quests or different things like that, then it might be something that just feels a little grindy for some minor upgrades.
Do you think that they would ever offer like maybe sort of these guild specific rewards being things like specific blueprints for crafting and things like that? Because you got to think. So hear me out, because that you've got the highest tier end players probably playing in these types of guilds who are usually quite organized and have a vast, like, sweeping a bunch of different types of people to do different things. And there's, people who are fighting, there's people who are PvPing, there's people who are crafting. So they probably have these dedicated crafters in those top end guilds, and they want to create this living, breathing, feeling world. Do you think that they might start giving like players bits of, dare I say, like, I don't want to call it sandbox content, but like specific things like, oh, these guilds can only make some of these items that you can't get other ways, and that's how they could sell this stuff?
Possibly. I mean, anything's really feasible at this point, and we know so little of what the rewards are going to look like that it's hard to rule stuff out.
I'd love to see them like put a little bit back on the player, put a little bit back in the hands of the player. Because again, I think that adds to more of a living world. Let's talk about this next bit here. I'm not so sure I'm buying this next bit. I want to know what you guys think.
Okay.
So he goes on, he says that often, so when these missions start, you're going to see the guild's banner with their name and their emblem on it. And he says, this serves two purposes. It's a great recruiting tool for guilds to find players by having them join on missions, and if they stand out, inviting them to the guild. It also means we'll really gain notoriety on their world. You'll get to know the guilds creating this content, and those guilds will become more famous and important in the community. I don't know. I mean, maybe it does help create a little bit more of a living world. I might just be being a little cynical here. I don't know why I don't see this really happening like that.
I don't see it happening necessarily how he stated it exactly there, but I kind of can see it like for example, like the guild that I'm in, when we're recruiting somebody, we try to play with them before we invite them, right? We try to do world versus world with them, or do some dungeon runs just so you can kind of hang out with them, see how they're playing and stuff like that. So you could kind of do it with a guild mission, right? You could say, all right, we have a bunch of applications. Let's spawn a guild mission, and we'll run around. They don't have to be tagged in the guild. Let's have them run around with us and see how they do. I don't necessarily see you just spawning these guilds randomly and trying to look out in the crowd, in the throng of dozens. That's
what I mean. Like, I almost feel like you think I assume it would be like they think that you're going to have this guild banner, and then other players are going to see the guild banner and be like, oh my God, I want to be in the Bog Otter guild, and that looks like such a cool banner. Let me go now figure out who the heck I need to talk to in Bog Otter. And it just seems a little...
Well, I don't think it's necessarily so much that. So say you're a guild that's really active, so you always, run these same couple, whatever they are, events, or you're doing these bounties, and people keep joining you, and you see the same people coming back because they happen to be in that zone, or they really like the guild content, or whatever. I mean, half the people in my, personal guild that I'm in are invited because we saw them at the same dragon events all the time. Like, I'd go to fight the Claw of Jormag, and there's Master of Whisker standing there. And I'd go to fight Taquito, and there'd be this guy. So, we got to know each other just because we were playing together so frequently. And then it was a simple thing to be like, oh, hey, you should be in my guild since we talk all the time at these events that we do anyway. So it's not going to work for everybody, but, it's just a recurring form of content that can work to draw people in.
I'm definitely not saying it's a cool thing. I mean, it's a little perk, maybe visual thing, but I just don't know. I mean, I guess my immediately thought was, I mean, could you possibly see guilds saying they're zerging on their guild mission, and they've got literally recruiters standing next to the guild banner ready to talk to people? Do you think that's the way it's going to go down? Could that become a thing? The guilds start doing that, and people know to do that? Oh, there'll be a person standing next to the guild banner. He's a recruiter. Talk to him. Maybe.
I mean, I will say that they already have the guild banners you can put down for giving people magic find buffs and those different things, and you kind of start to get familiar with which guilds are dropping those the most, right? And you see them all the time, and you're like, oh, I love this guild because they're always dropping the banners here and stuff like that. So it could be the similar type of thing. We're constantly seeing. I think a lot of these guild missions are going to take place in South Sun Cove, is what they've stated, which is cool because it's very underused zone. So you could definitely, let's check out which guilds are sponsoring South Sun Cove today.
So you think a lot of the people will start having guild envy basically, and they're gonna want to sort of like jump into the guilds that are unlocking these things. And because I don't know, like I mean, he's talked about like the guilds becoming like known within the community of your server, and I don't know. I just wonder if people are really gonna care after the mission's over.
I think it depends on how desirable those rewards are. So say you're always playing in Frostgorge Sound, and this one guild is always kicking off whatever guild mission is in Frostgorge Sound, and eventually you're like, oh, hey, FSC or whatever that guild is, like, they kick that off a lot. Like, I want those rewards, and these are clearly awesome people who are running events. Like, I should join that guild. So it really depends on how the rewards are set up and how regularly you can rely on running into content. Like if there's nothing that's repeatable and it just like spawns in a random zone, that might be more difficult because you don't have like a reason to run into people all the time. So there's a lot of stuff we don't know, but I think it'll be awesome.
There are. I mean, I guess if guild missions are really, really hard to get started, and actually seeing them as somewhat of a rare occurrence, and the rewards to be in a group that's doing those is great enough. Yeah, I think a lot of players will seek out guilds more that actually have the capabilities of unlocking this stuff. Do you see ArenaNet going that route though? Do you think that they're actually going to go and make these actually pretty freaking hard to like unlock?
I don't know how hard it is going to be to unlock, but they did say, and this is an interesting tidbit, they did say that there's going to be different levels of difficulty that you can choose for doing these. So you might choose, Guild Rush, which is a type that we don't know much about, but it's about, there's a time limit and you have to repeat some sort of activity. Your guild members have to repeat some sort of activity in that time limit and meet some sort of threshold. But there's going to be different challenging levels, and so that could be kind of cool. But yeah, I don't know how much influence you're going to have to pour in these in order to actually unlock them, and how often can you spawn them. These are all questions we don't have an answer to.
It'll be interesting to see what size of guild you really need, because any guild can over time save up enough influence to do whatever. But like he was talking about, I think it was again in the Dragon Season interview, and I don't have it right in front of me, but talking about how there would be like 3 or 5 zones across which bosses were spread that they had to kill within like a 15-minute window. So if you have to do so, you're not going to do that with a 5-person guild or a 10-person guild. So I assume that there's some certain investment of guild size that will be necessary. So it'll be really interesting to see how it all shakes out.
Yeah, so kind of like what Richie you just touched on. He talked a little bit about Gold Rush. That's the name of a guild mission, and where there's a countdown timer and it needs to be completed a certain number of times. Still kind of vague. I love how they're like, it sounds like they're just like, it sounds like their whole like idea of these fractals of constantly repeating this, like these scenarios over and over, like this endless loop with increasing difficulty and stuff. Like it seems like they love it. It's like,
we'll see.
It's kind of brilliant. I mean, it's like you're like a hamster on a wheel and it just keeps getting faster and faster. And you're like, let's do it again. Let's do it again. Let's do it again. So you talked a little bit about rewards here. It says, for personal motivation, anyone who completes the rush at least once will receive a personal reward, regardless of if they are in the sponsoring guild or not. Also, anyone who is in the guild that kicked off the mission receives an extra different type of reward, which can be traded in for a new category of personal guild reward that can only be earned through the guild mission system. So I think this is really, it sounds like a really good system. It sounds like the best of both worlds. I mean, the guild has to be rewarded for their effort they put in to unlock the mission. But randoms will still have a reason to help out with the mission and keep ArenaNet's be-friendly approach to PvE, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, we have a new kind of guild currency or something, right?
Ooh, another thing to stockpile. My favorite.
No.
We've got a lot of currencies.
I can't handle it more. You got blue gems, purple karma, green laurels, yellow gold. We need like
Lucky Charms.
Yeah.
Lucky Charms.
Liz, see if there's like some little...
Now that we've got a little bit of info on the guild mission system, what's your overall, I mean, it's still kind of vague. What's your overall impression though?
It sounds very promising, and I'm hoping it kind of plays out to be very promising. I know that 2 of my guilds have actually just been stockpiling influence since we kind of heard that this was a thing, because we were wagering that's how it was going to work to unlock. So I can't wait. I really hope that we have enough influence to kick something off like the first day to just test it out, but I'm really optimistic.
What about you, Rich?
Yeah.
I think it definitely fills part of a whole that we've been talking about on the show for a while, that PvE kind of need for why would you be in a guild if you're strictly doing PvE. I am a little bit cautious in that, I mentioned it earlier, I'm a little bit afraid it's going to feel like a guild daily or something like that, where you're just trying to unlock things, you know, and the events themselves, you know, you do it a couple times and they're fun, but you don't really want to do them every day. So I'm, you know, I'll be a little optimistic. I'm cautiously optimistic. And I think this could be a groundwork thing where they add to it over time and make it more interesting, and might even start to unlock things like guild housing and stuff in the future. So they can do that through this kind of system. Yeah, so you know, cautiously optimistic is how I would put my status at this point.
I think it sounds like a good start. I agree. If it sounds like it gets into dailies, people are going to be possibly turned off by it. I guess I almost hope a little bit that they might make these things kind of tough to unlock. I'm actually hoping that they're not so easy to unlock, because then it really takes an effort of guild members to come together, and they actually have to work on something for days or weeks even to unlock these things. Or at least there should be easy ones and to some level of degree that like it could take you maybe weeks to work on. I think that guilds, when you're at that level of hanging out with a group of people, I think that type of player really looks forward to longer term goals, and they can see past like this daily session of logging in, and they kind of can work towards like hey, we might get to this next month if we start working on this now. I think that type of player is looking for that kind of stuff.
Gary wants legendary guild missions.
Yes,
legendary.
I do. I think there's a place for some more just hardcore content, like where that takes like some effort of not like just logging in about this play session, because I think they have a ton of that stuff right now. All right, I'm gonna move on. It's T-6 days till the trading post stops sucking. So here we go. Here's what's been added to the February preview. That's what I got here. It's a little hard to see, but can't really see it. Can't really see it. It's kind of small. But we talked about this before. People complained about it since beta. What do you think about the features coming? Give us a rundown. What are they changing?
They're going to allow you to preview items on the trading post.
Whee! Finally. This is a long time coming. Yeah, this is a feature that, I mean, it's just been needed since launch. I don't want to call this an oversight, but oh my God, we kind of knew how important this was as soon as the game came out, but probably maybe a technical limitation. It was a technical limitation.
Yeah, that's what it sounded like. But yeah, fantastic that that's finally there, because you know you're looking for exotics and you're like, oh, maybe I can, but I don't know what that looks like and I don't feel like going to the wiki, so I guess I just won't.
Yeah, I mean, how many 10 die on an armor and you're hoping it looks good? You're like, damn.
Right.
Yeah, I kind of mentioned this before, and this is probably not the popular opinion. I obviously want there to be a preview in the trading post, but there is something a little bit unique right now in that you can find some skins by looking at wikis or other sites and different things, and that no one really knows about or you don't really see, and you can put it on it, and it befuddles everyone. Their jaw drops and they go, "Where did you get that?" Because they can't inspect your character, right? And they can't preview on the trading post. So unless they're scouring these wikis and stuff like that, there's no way of finding out. So there is a kind of like a little fun, unique thing you can do right now, which will be gone in 6 days. But you know, I think the game improves overall by having a preview on the trading post for sure.
And it makes it a lot easier to like mix and match from the like non-cultural armor or non-dungeon armor sets. Like if I wanted to know what the feathered piece looks like on my Char Necromancer, no idea how to check that. Like I have to like stand in map chat and be like, can someone link a feathered head or
I've seen that
tunic,
before.
whatever. Yeah, just people like begging for someone anywhere to have made it and linked it. The other thing is that preview's actually getting better functionality. Right now, you can only preview weapons while they're holstered at your side, which sucks unless you want to like take off your character's pants.
You gotta take off your pants, yeah.
So you can now
I do
see
that all the
them,
time.
how they look sheathed, how they look in combat, and how they look when they're something else, which is great. So like if you have a torch, you actually get to see its particle effects, we're assuming, because before you're always like, I hope that light's on fire at some point or else they're a really crappy torch. So yeah.
I think in addition to this, what do you guys, I think there are still a few things that the trading post really could use some tweaks. I mean, other than previewing, I mean, what about like, you know, you're searching by armor type? I mean, light, medium, heavy. I mean, things like some simple things like that I think are still kind of lacking in here.
Yeah, for sure.
And now tradable back slots have been implemented. Where's the category for those jammies?
Yeah.
So
yeah, there's definitely some sorting stuff that they can add. There's one thing, I don't know if this impacts everybody, but when I look at my items that I'm buying page, right, you kind of have a list of all the stuff that you have a bid put in for, and it shows you the price that you have a bid in for, but you don't know if people have kind of like bid way over you at that point. I would like there to be a column to see what the current highest
my
bid
price
for that
going
item
price,
is.
yeah.
Yeah, and that way, and then maybe even be able to up your bid right from there without having to click on it, see what the new price is, up your bid, and then go back in and cancel your other one, because it's very unwieldy right now. So I would like to see that feature put in.
Yes, please.
yes, please. All right, next up, Colin Johansson finally chimes in on a thread ArenaNet has started, I think it's like, 2 months ago, about some perceived strange loot drop behaviors going on. Here was the issue ArenaNet originally discovered. They said you could kill a creature with a lot of health. This was most noticeable on champions, and not qualify for loot, despite qualifying for all other credit. Once fixed, all champion mobs will correctly always drop 1 blue or better loot item, and all veterans will have a chance of dropping loot better than regular mobs as outlined in the November release. Have you guys run into this before?
Yeah, we didn't know we were running into it, but apparently, apparently this bug's been in there since launch. It's not that there was any problem with the loot tables, which is what ArenaNet has been saying over and over again, that they verify and the loot tables are working correctly. So it was you weren't getting, you could actually get event credit for killing some of these mobs, but you weren't getting actual loot credit for it because there was some sort of bug. So yeah, apparently we've all been impacted by this quite a bit.
Yeah, definitely.
What do you think? How do you think people are going to react about a blue? With the blue after a champion kill? They can't guarantee rares though, but how do you think?
Yeah, you really can't guarantee rares, because then people would start just farming veterans, which they obviously want people to kill veterans, but they're trying not to encourage someone just like waiting for it to respawn and waiting for it to respawn. So you can't make it too worth their while, but I'm just glad that I know that if I actually kill it, I'll get some sort of loot, because we talked about this way back with the champion Karka that's over in South Sun that is no longer an issue since it's not guarding anything worthwhile, where you would kill it and you would get nothing and it would respawn 5 minutes later.
Yeah.
And it was a heck of a fight. So it was just really difficult with absolutely no reward for it. So the fact that you get something for killing it, I think, will make most people happier.
Yeah, and what do you think about, to be clear though, the blue is the least you'll get.
The least
you still have a higher chance of getting greens and rares.
And I'd rather get a blue off of it than a porous bone or whatever, like chunk of crab meat. And you're like, oh great, I could have gotten this off of something much simpler.
Right.
What do you think about veterans? There's still a chance that veterans won't drop any loot whatsoever. How do you feel about that?
I think that's okay, because you can solo veterans, and veterans only take, I'm sure they're harder than normal mobs, but it'll take 2 or 3 minutes to down a veteran at most, and you can solo it. So if they made it that they always dropped a blue or better, you just see people out there just hacking those things to bits.
I mean, he says that they're going to have a higher chance to drop loot compared to normal bosses, but no guarantees. I guess if you think about time, you think if you take your time to kill a veteran when you could probably just kill a couple regular mobs just as quickly. It does.
I just don't see veterans as being enough of a challenge to be worth guaranteed drops of any sort. They're not difficult. So it's not like a champion where you have to actually think about oh, I'm going to fight with this. Am I going to make it? Do I need to call in buddies? Do I need to wait to see if someone else is coming around? Veterans are you just roll through them. Yeah, with a little more difficulty than normal mobs.
They're getting so much closer to improving this. I mean, it's already much better than it used to be, and with this bug fix, I think they're going to be in a fairly good place. It's already much better to go around and and fight things.
Yeah,
it's much better to go and do a lot of these low level boss events, these meta events and stuff. It's already much more rewarding and more fun that you're getting. You can get level 80 rares and different things from just doing these low level stuff now. So it is better. It is continually improving. I think that this is going to be a great fix for the game, and hopefully hopefully everybody starts being more happy and stops with the conspiracy theories about all kinds of deranged loot table.
Yeah, people were really starting to accuse them of ninja patching the loot, which didn't happen. It was some air long ago, but it's not like they went in and deliberately nerfed it. The other thing is that the game kind of throws veterans at you like really frequently, and every event probably spawns a veteran at some point or another. So it would be very odd if those had a guaranteed drop, I believe.
Well, the fix is going to be implemented in the February patch, so hold on tight. It'll be here soon. Colin also had this to say about just loot in general. He said, on top of this, we're also updating some of the loot in various areas of the game for the February release that would make specific areas more rewarding. We'll cover this in detail with the February release note. So it sounds interesting, a little bit vague. I wonder if this is ArenaNet trying to spread people out a bit more, make areas a little bit more less, or just more areas like possibly good to farm. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm a cynic, but when I read that, I heard, oh, we're making South Sun viable. Just because nobody goes there for much at all, ever. So yeah, it sounds like they're trying to spread the population out and maybe make other places like as viable as Ore for really nice materials. So we'll see.
Maybe get some people back in the lower level zones. They talked about that a bunch.
I think they're I said this earlier in the show that like they're getting some people into some of those lower level zones, right? And the January patch definitely got lots of people back into Ore, which they did a mass exodus after a few months of that. And yeah, South Sun Cove is totally empty right now. But people with the guild missions and maybe different rewards, that you're going to see. You see people in Frost Gorge, you see people in Ore, you see people in South Sun after this patch maybe, and some of the lower level zones for the Living Story. It's starting to really kind of work.
Yep.
And what's going on with culling? There's talk on the forums, and there's some talk on Reddit, and some people that are saying that the January patch actually made things worse. You guys know anything about this? What's your experience? Or you guys think this is...
My experience has not been so great, to be perfectly honest. It's right after the patch launched. I did a live stream show where I had a whole bunch of people follow me around Ore, and it was interesting because we were taking out the Balthazar event, and on my screen I saw maybe like 5 of my friends and just a few enemies. And everyone in chat and stuff like that, they were telling me, no, there's tons and tons of people here. And every once in a while, it would blip in, and I would see tons of people and tons of enemies. But on my screen, it just wasn't rendering. And I've heard some people with various reports and saying that the new system, where they kind of tweaked it so it kind of prioritizes enemies more, and that's a good thing for world versus world and stuff like that. But in situations like that, where you have actually a lot of players doing an event, then you don't see a lot of the allies either. So. They're going to continue to make steps. They'd never promised that it would be fixed from the January.
So were you noticeably seeing a difference between PvE and WDubs?
WDubs still feels kind of the same to me. It still feels like, every once in a while there's just a pack of enemies that you didn't see. Sometimes you'll see the nameplates a little bit in advance where before you didn't. It doesn't feel greatly improved in my section. So I do think that maybe it took a little bit of a step back from a PvE point of view because of the prioritization on the enemy.
How about you, Liz? What's your experience been like?
I haven't had any awful experiences. I've noticed fighting dragons that I typically see fewer people around me. Not to the point where I think I'm alone, but there's no feeling of like, I'm here with 87 of my best friends. It's like, I'm here with some other folks and we're killing a dragon. Oh, look, there are other people over there suddenly. Like, wow, that's crazy. Like, other people are fighting too. I haven't had like a horrible experience, but I haven't noticed significant improvement, and I've maybe noticed it being a little worse.
All right. Well, they did say it's a work in progress, and they said hopefully by the end of the year this would be fixed. So maybe a little bit step backwards. Who knows? We'll see. Hopefully, maybe in the February update there might be a little bit more about culling and help fixing that. Let's do some viewer questions really quick. I want to tell you guys about a great deal we got going on with Netflix. If you guys have not checked it out, go over to netflix.com/Gamebreaker TV and sign up for a free, yes, I said free, 30-day trial. You can stream it to your Xbox, your PS3, maybe soon your PS4. You're, while you're playing Diablo 3, you could have your little Netflix going there. But check it out. Go sign up today. You got a free 30-day trial. Definitely check out House of Cards, the Netflix original content, not to be found anywhere else, getting rave reviews. It's only on Netflix with Kevin Spacey and David Fincher as the director. House of Cards. Check it out. Go over to netflix.com/Gamebreaker TV. Sign up. If you guys like the service, you want to keep it. It's like $8 a month after that, but you can cancel anytime before the 30 days and you won't be charged a penny. Netflix. All right, we got some viewer questions. If you guys got viewer questions, send them in, submit at gamebreaker.tv. And if you've got video questions, which we love, we've got 2 this week. You guys are awesome. Send those, record yourself, post it up on YouTube, send us the link, send that also to submit at Gamebreaker TV, and we'll play it on the show. All right, so first up, video question from Joey Maroney. It's kind of like a regular here. He sends in lots of questions. Thanks for the video question. Here we go.
Hey, GuildCast. Like the home instance, the personality system is one of those features that I wish had a little more impact on the game. I was expecting NPCs to react differently depending on the choices I made, but I just never felt like the system offered anything besides an RP element. What are your thoughts on the system, and do you care enough to see it change?
All right, so basically the personality system, I think it is underused a bit. I mean, do you guys agree? And do you care even enough that you'd even want it improved?
Yeah.
I definitely want to improve. You know, I want my ferocious Char Necromancer to walk down the street and have children fleeing from her, like, you know? And it is problematic because open world implementation is tough because you can't be like fleeing from 18 people at the same time, sort of thing. I like it to play more of a part. I mean, I never know which interactions with NPCs are because of a personality of mine or just because they have like 3 different options anyway. So I'd like to see it be more spread out for people who really care about it.
Yeah, it's interesting that they put the effort in to develop that much UI, right, and actually put all the questions in, the different responses for all the NPCs, and then it just kind of stops. Like, that's a lot of work for just an RP kind of thing that, doesn't actually have any kind of in-game impact. The most I've seen it impact me is one time I've seen one dialogue option that said something like ferocious next to it that I could only choose because I was ferocious.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of think that maybe they should have had just one branch of the personal story at some point where the branch was based on like what mission you got to at that point was based on your personality type.
Mm-hmm.
And just one little thing like that would have been, okay, this mattered for this one thing. And if you want to see the other personality, missions for that, you got to make new characters and kind of do that. That would have been kind of cool, but definitely underused, definitely something they can develop in the future. And I hope they do, because right now it's a little bit underutilized.
Yep.
All right, our next question needs no introduction, especially if you watch After Dark, which you should, right here on Gamebreaker TV. Our live call-in show every Tuesday night at 9 PST, where you get to call in and ask video game questions of any sort. Mike Chaffnett, Josh Allen. Check it out, After Dark. You know him, you love him. Here he is.
This is Eduardo from Mexico, and I want to know if you think that Magic Find Gear kills the cooperative aspect of Guild Wars 2. I think that Magic Find should be a separate stat from Gear. I don't enjoy playing with Magic Finders because they are weak and fragile and they get much better rewards for it. Enough is enough! I'm sick and tired of these magic finding leeches in my magic finding game!
That's cute.
Eduardo's Corner, right here on GuildCast. What do you think, Liz?
It's something that's been a problem before. There have been a couple of very heated debates on Reddit about it. I would also like to see it be a non-gear stat, and I don't know, like, my guild typically runs with Magic Find Food, and we're okay with that because we're all doing it. But yeah, I'd prefer to not see it be a gear thing, and it's interesting because so many Ascended pieces have Magic Find on them, because they know that everybody wants to do that, even though it means you're technically kind of holding down the group. So, yeah. Sticky mess.
Yeah, I think it's the exact opposite thing that you should be doing. You shouldn't be giving people more rewards for being worse statistically, and it's just, I was doing a dungeon run last night, and it kind of, the topic came up. We wish the Magic Find of the group was kind of like averaged between the whole group, so that if we had 2 people wearing Magic Find, then at least everybody was benefiting from it. And you can kind of, set that up in advance. I don't. Yes. What'd you say?
That, yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's one way you can handle it. You could also, make it a buff that you continually give the group if they don't die and they continue to beat tough encounters throughout the dungeon. So by the end they can keep stacking. I mean, there's different ways you can kind of handle it, but the current implementation does not work from a cooperative standpoint, and it is bad, especially in pugs where you just don't know if any you can't inspect anybody else. So everybody else could be wearing their Magic Find gear, and you're the one guy who's trying to hold the group together with your your fully statted gear. And I don't know. Yeah, I don't like it. I agree with Eduardo. He's passionate about it. I'll be passionate about it too.
See how much fun video questions can be? Send in your video questions. Send them in.
Yep.
All right. Next up, this one in from Alex Peters. Alex says, what do you guys think of a system that allows you to set up templates for trait bonuses and lets you easily swap between them out of combat? It sounds like totally thumbs up.
Totally need it.
2 thumbs up.
Yeah, I was in one of the beta weekends. I'm sitting there in the mists, and I forget who it was from ArenaNet, but one of the ArenaNet guys was standing there, and he was fielding questions and stuff. And I actually asked, directly. I'm like, "Is there going to be a template?" Because in Guild Wars 1, you were able to save your build's template, right? And you got a little code, and you can name it what you wanted to, and then you can just swap them in, whenever you wanted to. And he basically responded something like, "Yeah, that's a great idea. We'll definitely look at that." And we're still looking at that, I guess. But yeah, definitely need it. Absolutely,
we want that. Absolutely.
6 thumbs up from the GuildCast. It's probably a little bit low on their list of priorities, but it's a great quality of life thing that I think a lot of players would actually really, really appreciate.
Yep,
absolutely.
Next in from Daniel Quintanilla. I think I got that right. Quintanilla? I don't know. Maybe.
Quinta.
Definitely a sick black
Quintanilla.
metalhead, though.
Yeah.
Got some sweet shoulder pads. Damn. He says, with the current prices in the TP, what sort of tips would you have for new players or casual players in making a reasonably steady income of gold, or ways to save some gold? Well,
the best way to save gold is to not spend it.
Ooh.
There you go.
Think of that.
I've answered it for you.
Boom. Mind blown.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a couple things you can do. I mean, running. If you just want to play the game, you don't really want to play the trading post. Then doing dungeons and fractals and stuff like that is definitely a good moneymaker. If you want to kind of dip your toes in the trading post, there's a couple websites you can use. GW2 Spidey is kind of like polls the trading post, and it has real-time prices of everything that's going up there, and there's some charts and stuff you can see what's trending and what's going up and down. You can even like the crafting section, and that is really great because if you're going to craft an item, you can see if is it cheaper to buy this directly from the trading post or cheaper to actually craft it, and you can see where you can get some margin from that site. There's also a blog by Egg Baron, who just does a lot of economic stuff, very in depth, and he recently put out a Google Doc that it polls from Guild Wars 2 Spidey, and it allows you to see if you can actually get a return on your investment from skill points by buying Philosopher Stones and using that to convert crafting, different types of the tier 1 through 6 materials and stuff. And it's a brilliant tool. You got to put a lot of work into actually buying these things and converting them into the Mystic Forge, but you can get a pretty good return on your investment on your skill points. I know.
Wow, that's insightful. See, I was just going to remind them that you can go buy gems and convert.
You didn't want. Oh, okay. You didn't want me to actually be helpful.
No, that was mine. That was my. I know. I said your tip was completely insightful and helpful. Mine was going to be just go to the buy gems
that's
the store, and then you're good to go.
Just buy. Just pay for gems.
Yeah, pay for your legendary with gems. I dare you. I freaking dare you.
How much
would it cost? $2,000, right?
Has anyone figured it out?
Something like that. Someone did at some point, and it's a pretty significant financial expenditure. So the next time I win the lottery, I'll have 10 legendaries.
Yeah, because all those threads came up just like, oh my god, it's pay to win, and you got to buy the gem. And then somebody's like, dude, that's going to be like $5,000.
Yeah, it's like, do you want to spend your entire paycheck on that? Because I don't know that you do.
I bet you somebody has. I bet you somebody has.
Of course someone has.
Of course, easily, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, last up this week from Edmo Bernardes Montero. Where do I get a name like that? Where is Eric Flanham? He left ArenaNet or is he secretly working on expansion? I don't know. I'm pretty sure Bro Hansen killed him.
I'm pretty sure that's the case.
Is that the case? We haven't heard from him. We haven't seen him.
It might be that, you know, he and Colin used to kind of balance their trade like interview and press duties, and now Colin's just taken over and Eric's just working fervently all the time.
He's like, you go block everybody else.
Go run
and I'll be here
interference.
working.
You're the blocker. I definitely haven't heard any word about him leaving, so I say
no, I don't think.
option 2. Yep. Elizabeth Clare, follow her on the Twitter at Elizabeth Clare with an X, and of course go over to massively.com and read all her work over there at massively.com. Richie Procopio, follow him on the Twitter at Richie Procopio, and go over to his YouTube channel, Bog Otter, and of course come over to watch Chat Bubbles with Richie Procopio and his other Guild Wars 2 coverage right here on Gamebreaker TV. You can follow me at Gary Gannon and follow Gamebreaker TV at Gamebreaker TV. 2 easy ones. Come over to the Facebook page. Make sure you like us. We're trying to beat 30,000 likes. I want to beat 30,000 likes this month. Go over to facebook.com/Gamebreaker TV and click the old like button. Help us out. And we'll be back next week, Wednesday, live, 6 PST for some more GuildCast. Have a great week, and thanks for watching. You guys are awesome. See you next week.